The walkaway movement is taking the internet by storm. It's reached over 2 billion people and is basically a bunch of people explaining their story, how they left the left, how they went from liberal or democratic to moving further right or just supporting President Donald Trump. It was started by a page called The Unsilent Majority, who is a gay former liberal who came out and explained why he considers himself now conservative and completely disgusted with the left wing. Millions of people feel just like him from every race, religion, sexual orientation, and ethnicity. But the news simply doesn't want to report on it. Most mainstream outlets and certainly liberal-leaning outlets just ignore this blatant reality that is further pushing and scaring millions of people like Brandon away. Here are a bunch of stories and accounts that you'll never see on the news. Voted for Bill Clinton, Al Gore, John Kerry, and Obama. My eyes were open once I found out the real frauds that the Democratic Party had become. None of them ever delivered any promises ever made, until Trump came along. The rest is history. I was a Democratic activist for 15 years, but the 2016 election opened my eyes. I don't recognize the party anymore. It is corrupt and hostile to independent thinkers. Its leaders are divisive and hypocritical. It advances no ideas or serious policy, just hostility. Walk away. She even provided pictures of her supporting and campaigning for John Kerry. As a woman, I am not a victim and lifelong Democrat for Trump. He is not a victim. This video will inspire many others to rethink what the Dem Party represents. I'm a non-affiliated voter, fiscally conservative, socially liberal. I never wanted to lean towards either party, but after 10 years of being called racist and now Nazi just for disagreeing, seeing the hate and division, I'll not vote Dem. They are ripping the USA apart. As a gay guy, nothing was more infuriating in 2016 than being told I should vote based on my sexuality, especially since my gay vote was owed to someone who supported 2 federal anti-gay laws and took millions from anti-gay despots. It was an easy choice to walk away from the Democrats. I'm a gay conservative and I'm nobody's gimmick. I'm a free thinker who doesn't vote on one issue. Life is complex. I had less difficulty coming out as gay to some family than I did as a conservative to some liberal friends. Walk away. This sounds eerily similar to Caitlyn Jenner's experience, who once said it was harder for her to come out as a Republican than it was as a transgender. Think about that. Think about the intolerance there that someone transgender is trying to tell you. I was a liberal who got all my news from late night comedians. I just assumed because I was gay, I had to vote Democrat. I voted for Obama his second term. I started off supporting Hillary. Then I actually started paying attention and informing myself. Voted for Trump in 2016. I abandoned the Democratic Party when I realized they had abandoned the inner cities. Walk away. I walk away from the left when it became clear they prefer to view people by victim hierarchy. It's amazing how quickly that tolerance falls away when said victim doesn't fall in line with the agenda. A woman can't want gun rights? Nay, nay. Women can only want abortions. In 2016, when Hillary Clinton said she kept hot sauce in her bag and then threw at Jay-Z and Beyonce to entice black voters, I had to walk away. That moment put it all together for me, that the black community was being duped ideologically by Democrats and entertainers. MAGA. Zen reflect. Walk away. I didn't walk away. They walked away from me. When it became all about telling other people how bad they are, rather than helping your fellow citizens, that's when I realized something had changed. I left the Democratic Party in my 20s after seeing what's been happening with the economy. My entire Polynesian family turned from blue to red, and I never looked back. Hey, I'm originally from South America, and I could tell you that my former country tried socialism and communism, and guess what? That crap doesn't work. It's all a con and a big fantasy. There are many others like me that have experienced Marxism, and we know how much it sucks. Being independent, I voted for Obama twice, but the left went too extremely far left for me. I refuse to be told how I should think. I have been a proud leftist my entire life. I can't be anymore. The silencing, the violent rhetoric, the moral panic, the fear-mongering, the demand for equal outcome, not just equal opportunity, the coercion of speech, the misleading, the flat-out lying. Walk away. There are so many more accounts from celebrities, from people of all genders, races, religions, ethnicities. I can't include them all, but this is the reality that the news is not showing you. This is a large reason why everybody's so confused. How could this be happening? How could this be happening? Why is this happening? Well, mainly because A large bulk of the country that is growing and growing and growing and growing is not being represented on the television, in social media, or in mainstream publications. Personally, for me, my walkaway moment was when I saw how the system really worked at the core. I saw not only how they treated Bernie Sanders, but more importantly, how they treated Bernie Sanders supporters. They made no effort to talk to people, to communicate with them, to connect with them, to make people feel them and understand. It was just a bunch of hate, guilting, and flat out biased media. I saw what was really going on, and that the late night hosts, the comedians, the trusted news networks that everybody thinks are so trustworthy, liberal news outlets, feminist news outlets, social media sites, the featured news sections were not only incredibly biased, incredibly misleading, incredibly hateful, and incredibly divisive, but I saw that truth and honesty was not their priority. I saw that pushing a narrative, pushing an agenda, and trying to be right, ego and stubbornness was really their number one priority. And they would push that ego and that stubbornness and that agenda and that narrative over anything, no matter who it affected, no matter who it lied to, no matter who it misled, no matter who it pushed aside, no matter who it hated. And I was disgusted. And since then, I've been running further and further away from this morally and ideologically bankrupt cult, who unfortunately still has millions caught in a brainstorm of confusion. I made this video not to point fingers and further divide, but to try to unite and bring us together and let people know this is the silent majority. This is a growing population. There's no way to step over, walk over, ignore, hate, push aside hundreds of millions of gay, straight, women, black, white, Latino, Asian, Indian, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, Hindu. There's no way to push hundreds of millions of people aside in this country just because you don't like Donald Trump and the news told you to feel this way and they tell you that this is going on and that's going on, while refusing to even consider and acknowledge our perspective. Refusing to even consider or acknowledge or respect the blatant reality that is the world that we live in, the country that we live in, the population that we have, ignoring that, trying to literally crush it and act like it's going away. But guess what that leads to, on top of nonstop coverage about someone you don't like? That leads to President Donald Trump. That leads to a huge red wave in November. That leads to millions of people walking away from a party and a belief system that they once put their heart and soul into. You could ignore me or get mad at me or try to say all these things, but I'm simply trying to let you know about a perspective and a population that is very, very real, and not only being misrepresented and underrepresented, but being flat out lied about and hated in what has been the biggest 2-year-long meltdown and hissy fit after an election that even gay left-leaning journalists who don't even remotely like Trump are admitting is not only ridiculous, but at this point, unprecedented. So this video was made to let you know, what are you missing? Because if you're following the wrong people, if you're following liars and misleaders and people who claim to be holier than thou, while not even attempting to understand and communicate with their fellow countrymen, it's going to lead to more and more people walking away from a hypocritical and double standard filled ideology that at this point is becoming every single thing that they claim to be stopping in society. They're bringing the type of energy and behavior that they themselves claim to be looking to end. The walkaway movement is very real, it's very diverse, it's very intellectually diverse, and in order to stop it, you're gonna have to start listening and considering what I'm saying. But if you want it to keep growing and exploding, then don't consider a word that I'm saying or a word that everyone else is saying. Continue to push this very narrow agenda of absolute confusion, resistance, protesting without looking at all the multi-layers going on, hate for the president, hate for conservatives, and what at this point looks like a socialist takeover of the Democratic Party because they have lost millions of lifelong voters due to their ignorance, stubbornness, hatefulness, massive ego, and massive denial about what's going on in this country. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for considering. Don't hate your friends based on their politics. We all need to show love and we all need to support each other and enjoy the things that really matter in life. Don't be afraid to have a conversation and talk to somebody instead of constantly talking about somebody. And let's see if we could mend this nation's wounds and build the better America that at the core of it, both sides of the political debate truly want. Thank you again. If you'd like to support my news analysis, check below the title or check in the comment section. I have a Patreon and a donor box. I appreciate everyone's support.